gorgeous Scott Bischoff join us from Bish Brown on the Detroit Lions podcast. Bish, how you doing, buddy?
Gorgeous. Are you serious?
Well, we got to start somewhere, right?
What have you been drinking?
Well, Dan Miller had a beer. Lucky guy.
Yeah, I saw that. You guys good?
Yeah, doing well so far.
Yeah, so far so good.
Good.
21 hours
Good.
left.
I think my head is, something's going on with my melon here because my hat looks funky, but whatever, let's move along.
Mine always, I quit wearing hats on
Thanks,
because
buddy.
I can't get them straight all the time. And then I try to fix them and then they go the wrong way. And then I kind of try to act like, and then I'm just doing this the whole show in my head. Forget it.
Yeah, I need to stop fidgeting.
Yeah. You know who does a good job of wearing a hat badly and it doesn't matter is Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
He just puts that up there and is like, whatevs, right? We go. I don't care.
Yeah, he's got a certain kind of energy where it's okay to do it all, whatever. It's good.
Yeah. I gotta take a quick minute. Everyone, we crossed the line for me to eat one of these beans. These delicious bean boozled. So I have to do that here really quick. I have to shout out everyone that did this. Again, Dan Miller, thank you for your $200. Figured 2 beers, I better double it. Thanks, guys. Chad and keep up the great work. Can't put into words how joyous this season has been. Thank you. And Richard Head, I know what you did there. $20. Thank you. Do you think Colby Sorsdahl will push for a starting job next year? That's a great question for you, Scott. I'm going to let you start with that question while I prepare.
That is a good question for Scott.
In a perfect world, no. But It's a really good question. I'm in a bit of a it's a riddle. I don't know that it's a great scenario where you play Sorsdahl immediately. I think where they'll be drafting, you could find a plug and play guard to play at a high level for you. The question is, to me, it's tied to the Jonah Jackson contract, and you don't want to replace 2 interior linemen in one offseason, but you might have to. So does Sorsdahl fit, and is he a player that you do rely on? Maybe. I mean, he played at a reasonable enough level on Monday where I think it's okay to think that. You do need, they need a swing tackle. They need help. This is a great draft coming up to need tackles. Like there are going to be tackles that get taken late in the first round who have an athletic profile where they would normally get taken earlier. Tall, long, athletic, all that stuff. So I don't know that I've answered the question. It's a tough question. I don't think that I would want him necessarily starting for them immediately, like next year. But if he plays to the point where he proves he can, yeah, I mean, it's sure, But I do think they're going to have to replace one of their interior offensive linemen, and so it's something that we Lions fans are going to have to understand and get used to. Is draft coverage has been I don't want to say easy, but it kind of has been. And when you're in the top 5 or 6. You're kind of focused on a few names. We're all going to have to get comfortable that we might have to focus on 30 or 40 this coming draft because, picking 25 and later, it opens up the doors to just about anything. And right now, I don't think anybody could tell you what are their needs other than you always need a pass rusher. You always need a corner, and you probably need some offensive line help,
Yeah. So
you always need something.
I'm going to try to read between the lines for Scott here. It sounds like your premise is that either Vaitai or Jackson, one of them won't be back. Is that right?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm assuming. Vaitai's injuries are starting to just add up, and it's been interesting.
I agree with you, by the way.
And he's been healthy enough to dress the last couple of weeks, but he hasn't played, which is it makes me curious if they are trying to move past him, and if they're doing that and playing Sorsdahl in an effort to see what he can give them now, and he looks like that in week 1. I would say that it's a really good sign for him going forward. These guys, he's going to take a step as a player, but there's already a requisite amount of skill there to begin with. And what the Lions like to do with their double teams and, that kind of stuff with their interior guys. I think he's physically up to it. You could see that he was physically capable of it. It's just, can he take the next step as a player and then push perhaps Vaitai out of that role where you think the injuries are just taking their toll and you need somebody to move on. And then I think the Jonah Jackson stuff is, you got to pay Sewell. You're going to have to pay Amon-Ra. You're going to have to, you're going to extend Goff. You have other players that you're going to have to sign, and I'm not sure you're going to prioritize a guard when you can find them, say at the 25 pick in round 1. Kind of like that's kind of where I am with it. So just because I have no understanding of what exactly their needs are going to be come April, there's, I think interior O-line is one of them. It tackles one of them kind of thing. That's where I'm at with it. I don't think there's anything specific that I'm saying though. Like, if they sign Jonah Jackson, then you would say, okay, cool. Well, lock that position up.
And I'm totally good signing Jonah Jackson and Vaitai's number. I mean, you let him go. You've seen in Glasgow, he's only 31, which for a lineman isn't really that old. You could put him on another contract and be just fine with him as in that right side. We've seen him play very well on the right side at guard, and get yourself a pick at 25th or 32nd for guard in the next draft, right? And bring that up as your next guy. And now you have your guard who can be your backup center. I mean, it gives you all those kinds of pieces really, really quickly with a single draft pick and a signing, and the money you save off of Vaitai, then you can, it doesn't hurt your cap at all. And you can still get Jackson, right? I mean, there's all kinds of ways to do that where it's a cap neutral. And then you can start talking about, well, what about Amon-Ra? What about all the other guys that you have to sign and keep on? So it gives you the flexibility you need. I know Brad's a lot smarter about this than I am, and so is Disner, but I think they're going to be just fine. I think they'll be. I think they're good. I really do think that Vaitai's gone. Jonah's thing, we talked about it earlier about, do you hit him on the injury thing? Is it just that he's injury prone? It doesn't seem like that's the case, that he's injury prone. It's just that's bad luck. Vaitai's a bit different. His injuries seem to be kind of very much kind of ongoing and not really going to be solved. And so I can see very quickly moving on. As good as he is when he plays, I can see the Lions moving on and using the money elsewhere.
Yeah, and the best case scenario is they already have that player in house. So if it is Sorsdal, it's great because there's a ton of value in playing a guy who is a later round pick who's going to play for you for 4 years. And it wouldn't, it shouldn't be a surprise if that were to happen. I mean, Brad Holmes has done a pretty incredible job, in his tenure here. I just say where I am is, the Lions finished the season pretty remarkably last year. And it wasn't like a flash in the pan string of 2 or 3 games where they played great. It was a long stretch. And then you throw on top of that Gibbs and Jack Campbell and Sam Laporta and Brian Branch and Hendon Hooker's here, and Sorsdal plays like that in his first game playing, and you think, what's like, they finished the season really strong last year, and then you throw on these 4 players plus 5 on Monday, and it's pretty remarkable to see what's happening. And I don't want to get out over my skis on what I think the big picture is for them, like for this year and then going forward. But I just, I kind of think that every possibility is open to where the Lions could finish this year, and I do mean every. And that is a very uncomfortable place to be. I just think that we should be looking at what this team did last year, how they finished, and then what they've added, and how those guys have looked. And nothing is off limits to them. It's a pretty remarkable place.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Rumor has it that you and this other guy, this Russell Brown character I've heard of. He had a great show that came out last night. It's good stuff for folks that need something to do when you're not putting all your money to St. Jude here. Check that one out. But there's some you guys alluded to about doing like a regular Lions show and a draft show. Am I hearing things, or is this like a dream
No, I
come
think
true?
you heard it right.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that.
Oh my goodness! I'm gonna.
Yeah,
Doctor.
I think as the season wears on, and we get towards the end of college season, and we get into some, more concrete draft stuff, because it's still very much, that coffee is still brewing, so to speak. I do think it would be nice to have a Lions, centric show, and then a kind of a draft related show. Yeah. And it's going to be fascinating because, Jeff, like, it's not that it's been easy to cover the Lions from a draft standpoint, but when you're picking early, the list of things that you really need to dial in on it's not a huge list. Like, at pick 2, are you taking Aiden Hutchinson or Trayvon Walker? I don't know where that came from, and or Kayvon Thibodeau, or some of us got sidetracked a little with the quarterback kind of stuff. I think that people know that. So, but we have to get comfortable with expanding our thought process as far as what and where they're going to be drafting, and I think teams that draft in the back end of the 20s always end up with really good football players who end up starting quickly and playing at a pretty high level because they're really good football players that don't require much of a projection. So when you're talking about players in the top 10, you're thinking upside and what they're going to become, as opposed to players in the mid-20s that what they already are. So there's as a draft guy, I'm super excited for them to draft a player that I know, all right, this dude starts from day one in this position and I'm comfortable with it. But having said that, look at what Holmes has been able to do with the picks that he's made. It's pretty remarkable.
So you hit on something there. That a lot of times the guys that go in the 20 to 32 range are guys who generally get evaluated by people like you and me and the rest of the online draft thing as like, well, that guy's like player number 12, but he's falling because he doesn't have the athletic upside, or and that's kind of exactly what this team needs. Like, they've got the frontline players. They need the guys that can come in and bring, I'm going to use the cliched word, grit. It's a great fit for where this team's at. The fact that they'll be picking, I think they're slated right now to pick number 29, based on the Super Bowl odd and current. Like, that's a really fun place to be. For those of us like you and I, Scott, who cover the draft, it's weird because we have to be a lot more well-versed on a lot more players. You talked about a couple of years ago, it was Aiden or Trayvon or Kayvon or Sauce or maybe a quarterback. And we learned pretty quickly that if you evaluated those quarterbacks, they weren't going to be part of the mix. Like, this year, I got to know, like, all these, it's a great year to do wide receivers. I've got to know, like, every wide receiver from, all the guys at Washington. Like, so many different things. We got to know the Cooper Beebes of the world. We got to know the dude from Boston College who I really like, and his name escapes me now. It's a fun name too. But I like him as an inch. Like, there's so many more things that we have to study. It's going to be a very different year for us to cover it.
It is, but I guess we'll just have to take on all that work and figure it all out, right? It's so terrible what we have to do. Please, it's great. It just, I think that there are moments where the bye week comes at a great time for all Lions fans to just collectively take a breath and see what's happening and recognize this is very different. And it's going to be a super exciting ride starting, the week they come back. The schedule really opens up for them. Chris, I don't know where you guys are with it, but I think you kind of feel like a home playoff game is a must, and maybe even more than one is a position where they could find themselves in, which is just crazy to think about. how quickly they have gone from, what they were with Quinn and Patricia, and just how ridiculous that whole situation was, to what feels like, smoke through a keyhole kind of thing. And here we are a few short years later, and they're just crushing picks everywhere. And it's different. So it's a good time to just sort of take the deep breath in before the plunge, so to speak, to go Lord of the Rings on you. It's coming. The Lions are going to make a run. And as crazy as the first 8 weeks have been, and some of I don't know what you guys thought about the trade deadline. I saw some stuff.
So I was just going to ask you about that. And you can, I'll ask the question. And were you upset that they didn't make a bigger splash move than DPJ?
No, just because of price.
Why not?
I did not want them necessarily involved with Chase Young. I thought Montez Sweat would have been fine, but in order to beat what the Bears offered him, you were going to have to toss your first round pick to them. I mean, their second round pick is going to be a top 40 pick, and you then have to pay him. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I didn't necessarily want it to be Chase. I didn't want them getting involved with Chase Young because, okay, he might be productive for an 8-game stretch, but the injuries with him are not great. And I just think I don't know if he's a fit for their locker room, for their culture. I think Montez Sweat is, but not, I don't know that you want to give up a first round pick and then have to pay that player. So that's where I was. I mean, I would have loved some corner help, but it didn't come. DPJ, I think, is a great fit for what they were missing on offense. You don't have a big boundary receiver. And I think this was what Marvin Jones's intention was here. And DPJ is an upgraded version of that. So, but I don't understand. I guess I didn't understand the fretting about it, or I guess they're not competing this year. And I'm thinking, no, I think this is them telling you they're all in on who they have and what they've built to this point. And there's a lot of trust that goes in with defensive backs and, understanding who they've got and what they have. And they don't want to disrupt that by bringing in a player who might disrupt their build by costing them a bunch of money in the future. So that's where I was with it. I guess it's not like this is the Detroit Red Wings back in the early mid 90s where they could just add, oh, Brett Hull, you score a lot of goals. You want to come on down and snipe goals from the bottom of the circle for us? Cool, we'll have you. That's just not how it works in the NFL. I wish it was like that in some ways, that the trade deadline would be more exciting like that. But for where the Lions are, especially at the bye week, sitting where they're sitting and with what's in front of them, I can understand a little bit of it. Like, you want to get a little better, but at what price? So, I think DPJ is a really nice fit culturally and with what he can do as a player. I'm not so sure that, and I don't know where anybody else falls on the Chase Young thing. I don't think he costs very much money. That's a tell. He San Francisco, they end up giving up a pick that hasn't quite been doled out to them yet, a compensatory pick, and Washington's happy to do that. That's telling. You know what I mean? That's telling you some things. So I'm fine with where they are. I think they're in a great place. I really do.
Chris, you're muted.
If you think about it, in the history of Brad Holmes.
Hi, Chris.
Hi. Giving up to get Chase Young on a rental, potentially, you're giving up a Aleem McNeil or a Kirby Joseph or a Hendon Hooker or a Broderick Martin and Iffy. Those were thirds. But that's, when you're looking at Brad, that's kind of the realm of the player that you're giving up. Is that worth it? Well, Chase Young is good. Is he the right fit? Is he the guy that they would have drafted? Maybe not. We don't, I'm not certain that he is. And I think about what Brad Holmes is like a 90% hit rate at the draft versus this expensive kind of money play. Detroit Pistons Amateur Hour says, I'm not upset about the lack of trades. I just worry you never know what the future brings. It always seems the window is longer than it actually ends up being. if Brad can continue to maintain this hit rate, I mean, that's the only thing that's gotten this Lions team where it is in 3 years is the drafting of Brad Holmes. CJGJ, he's not playing. Manuel Mosley, he's not playing. It's not these big splash signings that have gotten the Lions from what is arguably the worst roster since 0-16, maybe worse when Matt Patricia left, and then the trade happened for Matthew Stafford, to where they are today. It's really solely been through the draft capabilities of Brad Holmes. Do you want to take away part of his superpower and turn it into this rental of a guy that may or may not be what we want? What I see and what has happened to this team in this 3 years, I'll say one, I would have loved to make 10 splashes. I'd have loved to have been owned the headlines for all the guys this year. But I trust Brad's choices because he's the one that's gotten us here. And there's a lot of guys that have done things that I've agreed with that didn't work out. So I'm kind of like, he has the credibility, I think, to win the argument on whether or not we should have made a bunch of splash picks or any splash picks here in this last
100%. And I think part of it is also they're super smart people, and they know what kind of money is coming up to the guys who they already have that they love, that are all about the things that they're about, right? Mm-hmm. And bringing in another player that then upsets that. In a best case scenario, you bring in Chase Young for whatever you have to give up for him, and then you have to allocate a bunch of money to him that you weren't considering allocating to him at the cost of some other player. I just, Chris, I'm with you 100%. Brad Holmes is earned. People are going to roll their eyes at this, but you don't have to be all in on every single decision they make to understand that they're generally making really good decisions, and that's got them where they are right now. And that's it. Like, we saw the stuff that Bob Quinn did and others.
Carrying a baseball bat.
Yeah. Like,
he knew he needed it to protect himself walking out of that building half the time.
I remember those, like, being in the building and yeah. So I think that there's a level of understanding that we as fans should just take away from where they are, knowing that they know what they're doing and there's a plan. And the plan did not necessarily involve bringing in a wild card like Chase Young. Now, would I have wanted them to get in on Montez Sweat if it was going to cost them maybe their second round pick? Sure, because I do think he would have fit for them, right?
With a contract.
But I don't know that that them not being involved in this is going to cause me to worry so much about whether they're competing this year or not. They clearly are. Everything's in front of them.
Yep. Really quick, stjude.org/DLP. Get your donations in there. Help support St. Jude. Get your name on the screen. We'll call you out like we are. Jeff M., $40. Thank you. And Wiggy Master for your 25. Thank you for supporting. I've got my beans sitting right here. We're going to let Scott talk, and we're going to get through that. And we won't put him through the pain of my pain eating what could be. What is it? This one.
What are you eating? I need to know this.
These are
the Bean Boozled.
It's Bean Boozled by Ronco.
Oh, so you don't know what it is? Oh boy.
No, it
could be like regular peppermint, or it could be vomit. It could be bottom of a trash can, or it could be chocolate. Like, you just don't know.
This one is birthday cake or dirty dishwater. And you know how Jelly Bellies are, right? Those beans, they're exactly on point for flavor. These things, like barf is like, it induces retching while you're eating it. The spoiled milk is really bad. It's really bad.
The birthday cake or dirty dishwasher one is, I think you take that risk. I do.
I'm about to.
Because it's birthday cake. I mean,
Yeah. And so as somebody who has been victimized by these, the dirty dishwater wasn't the worst. Stink bug was the worst. That was
Ew.
The accuracy with which they imbue these flavors into these freaking beans is unreal.
Oh yeah.
I would love to
these beans. Like,
how do they know
what stink bug tastes like?
I would love to listen to a podcast of somebody who creates these Bean Boozled flavors on how they do it. I'm fascinated by it.
Because is it like human testing? Like someone eats the stink bug and then someone eats and says it needs just a touch more human feces. It's just missing that little, what's the who's the one person that's fine tuning this stuff? Oh my god!
Yeah.
There's got to be a lot of money. We need to know. I think that person should earn just as much money as the guy that climbs to the top of the radio towers and replaces the light bulbs, because I feel like after seeing Riz last year lying on the floor at the end of the 24 hours in excruciating pain, he actually wound up in the hospital. We put him in the hospital.
That was a medical issue not related to the beans, but yes.
Let's take a moment for drama.
They didn't help.
So yeah, that's pretty crazy. So yeah, I think you're. I think
out of the hospital this year.
Yeah,
I'm working on it.
1 hour at a time.
It's generally good advice for just about every scenario. Yeah.
So we've got this thing going on. We're doing our thing with the trades, the deadlines, the draft. We wind up drafting next year. We have a couple guys. Let's say all of our 1 year guys are gone. All right. Let's just say we clean those out and we have to come back with something new. What are you looking at as far as from a draft potential right now, positionally, Scott? Where do these Lions really need to bolster and put something that's going to help them kind of get to that next level?
So this is probably going to be the laziest sort of garbage answer ever, but it's pass rusher or defensive back, kind of, and it's not tough to like. You always need those guys. Like there's always injuries and there's stuff that comes up, but right now, like Joey Porter Jr. looks pretty good and he's playing at a pretty high level. You'd love to add that to your roster next year in the draft in round one. We talked about the interior O-line, if that's kind of what they need. So to me, I guess just to really quickly answer the question, it's defensive back or pass rusher. If a wide receiver they have graded out very highly falls to you, which is a possibility because there are a lot of receivers and a lot of different receiver types in this class, that's something that you could get on board too. But I think generally it's pass rusher, defensive back, maybe an outside corner type defensive back where I don't know what's going to happen with Cam Sutton going forward long term. I think Jerry Jacobs I think he might be here for a while. He's become one of the most important players on their defense. And you need more help there. So, obviously you mentioned it with no Gardner Johnson Jr., no Emmanuel Mosley, and not a lot of depth there. I could see that being where they go is a developmental player who's going to play as an outside corner for you, opposite Jerry Jacobs, and then everything else that's here is here already. So, I don't know if that's a good answer, but it's a lazy answer because you could say that about 32 teams.
Yeah, but I think it's a good answer. I really like. I like Jerry, but what I like about Jerry, besides Jerry the person, is the development we've seen out of him from a UDFA till, wow, we're 63 players deep because of injury. He's going to see the field to, wow, this guy's for real. This guy's a real NFL quarterback. And even at the beginning of the season, people were like, Jerry's he's not NFL caliber. People just don't know, right? People missed a lot. They called Hutchinson Bustinson for a long time, and now it's like they can't get out of his shorts. But Jerry's growth and development, I think it's a testament to both the coaches on this team, but to him as a player and a man, and the effort that he puts in, because he is a valuable commodity. He's been really cheap too. What's going to happen?
Yeah, look at he misses the Baltimore game, and look what happens. There was more going on there than just that, but still, he's a very important part of it. Sometimes a player like that just shows up and he gives you what he gives you, and it works. And he has grown as a player. I do think that we're going to see a little more Cam Sutton being tested towards the back half of the season with Jerry Jacobs kind of playing the way he is. But I think it's a great thing getting that kind of value out of a player like Jacobs. It's huge. It is.
Yeah. Speaking of Jerry and the Seatbelt Gang and everything else, I haven't said this yet, but let's do this right now. All the t-shirts and merch available. That's available at DetroitLionsPodcast.com and also at Seatbelt Gang. So seatbeltgang.com, since we handle Jerry's merch for him. A lot of people don't know that. $2 from every t-shirt sold will go straight to St. Jude. So if you were thinking of getting a Seatbelt Gang shirt, there's a great lockdown shirt with Jerry's face on it as well, and kind of the Obama hope motif kind of thing. It's a real bomb out shirt. If you're a Jacobs fan, check it out. Go to seatbeltgang.com. Any of the shirts there, any of the shirts available at DetroitLionsPodcast.com. Check them out. $2 from every shirt, St. Jude, throughout the course of this 24-hour podcast. So if you were looking at, there's a really cool 1991 NFC Central Champs shirt, just prepping people for the NFC North shirt that's going to come out this year. Get that, support it, get that juice, get that luck, get that good winning feeling out there, and you can get a couple bucks to St. Jude that way. You get a little something for yourself out of the deal. Or if you want to just donate, like Anonymous just did, a $25 anonymous donation, go to stjude.org/DLP and just put your money where your mouth is, straight up. Took us up to $38.75. I know I owe you folks a bean. We'll do that as soon as Scott, we let him free, because he's got a busy day. It's a birthday today, Scott. Do we need to sing, or can we just wish your better half a happiest of birthday?
We are not singing a thing here. We're just listen. If I could sing, I wouldn't talk. If I had hair, I wouldn't wear a hat. And if I were, I wouldn't wear pants in a certain scenario either. So I'm wearing pants and I'm wearing a hat and I'm not singing. And I think I've said that before at times. We're not singing. We're just gonna talk it out or write a nice little letter, whatever. That's how we're doing it. Sorry,
Scott. I've been with you at a Metallica concert, and I noticed that you didn't sing along when we were there. So, yeah.
Well, I could have there. You would have never heard me, so it would have been totally fine.
You can scream better.
And I put on concerts in the shower. I put on concerts in my car when I'm driving. I just don't do it in front of anybody else.
So if we catch you without pants, without a hat, you're going to be singing. That's basically the situation.
Generally, yes, but you're never going to catch me without pants. So that's,
we just, okay, I'm not going to get into the shower with you. We'll just,
I've made this very awkward.
I think I made it awkward. Right. You set it up, and then I just took us to the awkward place. That's usually how it goes, Scott. We can't put that one on you, brother.
We're good.
Riz, I got a baby brother to eat an orange slice covered in toothpaste. That smells like a Riz thing to do this year. Do you have any oranges around the house?
We have apples. I don't know about oranges. I have a lime. I've done the lime before.
Yeah.
That was surprisingly bitter. That was unpleasant, actually. That might be. So, Scott, so just so you know, when we get to 10,000, I am doing the Will Levis banana.
You're just eating the whole thing.
Yes.
Okay. Has anybody put mayonnaise in their coffee? I can't do the mayo in coffee.
I can't. But yeah, I can't do that. But I will do the Will Levis banana, and I did the lime. It was like a couple of drafts ago. I don't remember what it was. I do know it because it dealt with the Bengals, because we all knew go back to the 2021 draft that the Bengals were either taking Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell, and the Lions were taking the one that they didn't. And I guessed wrong. I thought they would take Penei and that Chase would wind up here, and I had to do my penance as eating a lime. But by the way, people from both teams have validated that was exactly the plan for both teams. Like, it was Penei or Chase for both teams. And I think both teams are pretty happy with that too.
I think both teams are pretty comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good. So let me ask you this, because we do have a lot of wide receivers, and I am fascinated by this wide receiver class. I think it's the deepest I've ever seen at this point. Are you looking for a specific type? I'll phrase it this way. One of the things that I was interested in at the trade deadline was getting a true slot receiver, an instant open, short range target type of guy. Tom Kennedy, but with more pizzazz. Nothing against Tom Kennedy. We love Tom was on this show last year doing this. But somebody that would be like a Hunter Renfro, like a that kind of guy. Where do you value that? Because my thought behind it is that I would like to be able to move Amon-Ra around because he can. And I like the idea of being able to do, like, is that, how much value would you place on that compared to an outside receiver who's going to be the Josh Reynolds replacement if Josh isn't back, or something of that? DPJ he's auditioning for, I firmly believe DPJ is auditioning for that role, but how high of a priority would you place on the different types of receivers there?
So, I mean, I think it's interesting. The idea of moving around St. Brown is, it's a great idea. But where I would start right now is I would let JMO take those. I'd let Jameson Williams I want him to take those slot reps where
I would love it too.
Just like they're putting him in high leverage situations. And sometimes I think that let him run like a crossing route, line up on say, let's say the left slot and then run a 10-yard crosser all the way across the field. Hey, guess what? Nobody can run with him. That kind of thing where it's just pitch and catch type stuff, but they don't seem to want to be doing that. As far as the draft goes, I think it would be great to have a player who is capable of lining up out of the slot and moving St. Brown around, but also a player who could give you outside looks too. Think about that. Like, all right, we don't know where they're in the huddle. We don't know where St. Brown's going to. They have another player who can do all those things. Now, I think like Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State would be a pretty dynamic weapon for what they have. And we also have to remember what Jared Goff sort of demands out of receivers is trust. So you must run your routes the right way. You must get to your landmark. You must be trustworthy. And then I will get the ball to you kind of stuff where Egbuka does run really smooth, efficient routes. He may not be available where they're picking. I would guess that he would not be, but a player like that who can operate out of the slot, but can also operate, as a traditional player too, that kind of stuff. I just think that whoever they take needs to be a very, very smooth, efficient, good route runner to capitalize on what Jared Goff is as a quarterback.
There you go.
Feeling that.
Feeling it.
It's interesting. So we talked to Mark Schofield earlier. I know you know Mark. And he talked about the trust factor being an issue in JMO, like running a 17-yard, like going 17 and coming back to 15 rather than turning at 15 and waiting for the ball and things like that. Is that what you're seeing in JMO when you watch the film? Yeah,
there's a touch of they're just out of sync a touch. It's a little why, the high leverage ones, the really deep down the field ones. I'm not sure Goff has totally dialed in Jameson Williams' speed yet, which is interesting. And then you look at scenarios where that Jameson Williams is not necessarily running the route the way Goff wants him to. You can see it, that Goff's frustrated. And it's the combination of those things where they are a touch out of sorts. Maybe we all have thought Jameson was more NFL ready than he was coming in. I think that's pretty fair too. That there is an element as a route runner that he needs to develop to where there is a struggle happening. But that's a little bit why I would love for them to just give him easy pitch and catch throws and let him, have 3 or 4 of those a game where, what's going to happen. He's going to beat everybody to the sideline and turn up the sideline and be gone. And that's, it's a little like what Jalen Waddle did in his first year with Miami. They did all kinds of short stuff with him. because they couldn't protect their quarterback. And, Jalen Waddle's super fast too. Jameson Williams might be the fastest player in the NFL. So get the ball in his hands and let him go. And it's something that I really want them to do. But I also understand that that's from a limited perspective and a limited understanding of what they're trying to do. So it's not like I'm, firing the remote at the TV because they won't do it. It doesn't really matter what I think. So, I hope they do get in sync. I hope that it does work. Sometimes it takes time with receivers. We've seen really, really good wide receivers take a little time. Does anybody remember Devontae Adams' first couple of years in Green Bay?
No. Packers fans hated that guy. They hated him.
Yeah. It's not all roses sometimes, and he hasn't had a ton of time with, you missed the year with the ACL, and then you come back to, not too soon, but you come back and you're lacking chemistry, and then the gambling stuff, and it's just, there's the ham, all this stuff. He still needs to work on becoming more reliable on the field. And here's where I'm at, I guess. Big picture with him is you don't put in performances on special teams at Alabama the way he looked unless you love playing football. He was a special teams monster there. He really was. And it's obvious he loves the game and he's super passionate about playing. He's physical and all that stuff. I think we just need to give him a little more time. Yeah. It feels probably like giving him a pass on where he is. I think he does need to work harder on being a better route runner, but I don't think there's anything where you look at him and think he's a bust because he just doesn't care. I don't think that's at all where it is with Jameson Williams.
No. And I think that's an important thing. There's a narrative out there by some people, and they're trying to find a blame. He's lazy. Give him time. It's Goff's fault because he's too fast and Goff always underthrows him. Can we stop that one? Like Goff can't throw to a fast receiver, right? That one's just silly, right? That's just silly.
Yeah, you kind of bristle at that. Like it's Jared Goff. He's whatever you think of him, he's still he was the first pick for a reason. He's a very capable quarterback. There's just chemistry. When you're putting the ball 50 yards downfield, it's tough. It's tough. Those are hard situations to win in. And he's won a few of them where he's looked great.
Well, by that kind of thinking, Devontae Adams must be slowing down because he was overthrown twice in the Raiders game by Jimmy Garoppolo. Right.
Yeah.
That's just one game. So there you go. Well, Scott, I know
Jimmy G sucks.
Hey, he's a good-looking man.
He's a handsome fella.
He's an exceptionally good-looking man.
Yeah, okay, we gave him his due. Scott, I know you got a lot going on. I know you got a busy day, and thank your wife for us. Wish her a very, very happy birthday for letting you do this with us.
I will,
and taking time away. It's important. St. Jude, stjude.org/DLP. Get couple of ducats in there. Help us raise the money. Help us get there. I'm due to eat a bean. I got to give folks the bean treatment, and you got to go give your wife the beauty. The hat's off, the pants are off, and it's going to be time to sing. So have a great birthday.
I get to disappoint my wife again.
Oh, Scott.
Hey, you guys have a great day.
Oh, buddy.
Appreciate you, brother.
We're in the midst of a very good day. We're very happy.
Good.
And thank you for joining us. And pimp your last video that you just did, because it was great. I actually watched it this morning a little bit. I got about 2/3
All
of the way
right.
through.
Well, it's on Detroit Lions podcast, and Russ and I are going to get more of those. This one is just a bye-week sort of. It's not a filler, but we did talk about the trade deadline. We talked about some draft stuff. There's going to be more of that. So tune in there. Donate away here today. This is great stuff. You guys are doing an awesome thing. Very much appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for being a part of it. Love you and Russ, what you guys are doing. It's I love watching you guys work. And it's so cool to have a platform to get you guys back and doing it again, because you're an excellent pair. It's really something to see. So hopefully a lot more to come out of you guys very, very soon. All right, brother.
For sure.
Be good. Have a great
Thanks,
day. Enjoy it. All right. Thanks, Scott Bischoff.